So I get asked every now and then, where do you come up with topics? How do you come up with them? How often in advance do you come up with them? Well, short answer is sometimes weeks out, sometimes news of the moment, sometimes something else triggers a episode. Today is one of those where something else did. And specifically, it was something we saw on LinkedIn earlier this week. And it was a LinkedIn post from our guest today talking about his experience at the NACS Leadership Forum last week. And he wrote, "It was one of those moments that reminded me why I love what I do." That's what we're going to talk about today. Joining us today is Kevin O'Connell. He leads the NACS Foundation. He is the writer of that LinkedIn post. And we had a presentation. The NACS Leadership Forum was in Miami last week. And among the things actually kicking off the event was a whole program dedicated to what the NACS Foundation is about. And Kevin, before we get into the Leadership Forum, I'm not sure a whole lot of people know what the NACS Foundation does. So they know about 24/7 Day, they know about some of these other things we do, but let's just set the stage and give your elevator description of what the foundation, the NACS Foundation is.
Sure. Thank you, Jeff. So the foundation has been around for 30 plus years, and it's had a few different iterations, but at the moment we are focused on three core pillars to improve not only the industry's reputation, but to legitimately give back to the local communities that we all live and operate in, both on the retail and supplier side. So those three pillars are response relief. So anything around a local to national disaster, we are supporting and partnering with organizations like American Red Cross. The second is our education pillar. So this is called Future Fund. We provide about a dozen scholarships a year to frontline convenience store employees and their children to go back to any accredited institution. We also help support the executive education program that's run here at NACS for our members. And then the third one that we have unlocked in the last 12 months that we are pouring a ton of quote unquote rocket fuel into is our neighborhood nourish pillar. We know that hunger relief and food insecurity has been and unfortunately will be a continuing issue in our country. But we've also been looking at how do we limit and reduce food insecurity, knowing that our industry is really embracing food forward industry. And we want to make sure that we are getting any leftover food or looking for ways to get that food back into local communities. So those are our three pillars.
So response relief, when we first met with Red Cross to talk about how might we work with them on 24/7 Day, one of the things that blew us away is, yes, you hear about response relief and the need for donations, Red Cross, anybody else that helps support people in times of need. You think of hurricanes, earthquakes, tornadoes, but 70,000 events are classified as disasters by the Red Cross every year, and they're largely house fires. If your house catches on fire, it's a disaster. It's something you need immediate attention to. So when you think more broadly about when first responders are needed, you don't have to be in Hurricane Alley, Tornado Alley, you don't have to be near hurricanes, you don't have to be in an earthquake zone. You're always in need of response relief, no matter where you live in this country or this world. So I thought that was a really important tie-in because that leads right into what NACS and the industry is all about, where we are everywhere too. We are not in just only certain areas of the country or neighborhoods. We are literally everywhere. So the tie-in, I think, has been really powerful the last 8 years.
Yeah, I mean, I said this last year, and we use a lot of different phrases, but I said, we're not just convenience stores, we're community stores. We see those first responders come in at all hours of the day after a 12-hour shift or the start of a 12-hour shift, and they also are there to protect us and to serve us. And so, yes, 24/7 Day operations and 24/7 Day first responders certainly go hand in hand.
So we will, of course, have you on and talk about 24/7 Day. I know we're tightening up the messaging and we'll announce what we're going to do with that. Very excited about that because we're over 40,000 stores that are participating in this in only 8 years of the program, or less than a decade. So last week, Leadership Forum, you were talking about, and I love the timing, convenience has heart. And I don't know if the exact day was Valentine's Day or it was right around, I know it was definitely around Valentine's Day. but I thought it was really thoughtful. Well, first off, it amplified, it reminded you why you love what you do. But combining the convenience at heart really combined the first responders with the neighborhood nourished. Talk about the experience at the leadership forum.
Yeah.
What was the goal of what you did and what was the outcome of what you did?
So I'll back up here. So in previous leadership forum events, we really like to leave the community better than we've found it. And so in 2025, U.S. Hunger came in and we packed, I believe it was about 10,000 meals for the city of Jacksonville, Florida. So that was very hands-on. This year, we wanted to kind of switch it up and think of something, one, that we could kick off leadership forum with, a very heartfelt message. And so this tagline of convenience has heart has always been talked about internally here. And then we came up with the idea of like, well, what if we bring this to life the week of leadership forum, knowing that basically leadership forum ends the day before Valentine's Day. And so what we originally started doing is saying, you know what, let's have our industry come together and write a very personal, heartfelt card to the local first responders in the Miami-Dade County area and to local food pantry clients. And the one thing I'll note is Miami-Dade County, believe it or not, is the size of like Rhode Island and Delaware. It's about 2,400 square miles. There's a ton of different first responder branches, a lot of food pantries, but this is a big, big county and big area that we were in. So we said, let's get our members to give back. So we then went one step further. We then partnered with Wawa, and this is, I think, a really good example, Jeff, of what industry impact looks like when we all come together. Wawa said, you know what? We will throw in free hoagie and free sizzly coupons, and each card got stuffed with that. But then again, we want to say, let's take it even a step further, going back to what I said at the beginning, is we want to make a real local impact. And so my board of advisors and I vetted a handful of organizations, and we landed on 2 organizations that we wanted to make a donation to. So the first is the First Responders Resiliency Foundation. In the unfortunate events in 2021, when the Champlain Towers collapsed, a lot of first responders came to the rescue. And from that, Miami-Dade realized, you know what, a lot of our first responders are going through mental health crises, not managing their stress and anger correctly. And so Miami-Dade set up the First Responders Resiliency Foundation. It's literally an on-call hotline with certified counselors that they can call if they are in a mental health crisis or just need help, and it's completely confidential. What I think was very impactful is Emily Gould, who accepted the check and was on site to give a little presentation. She said that small, even though it was a small donation, said this is allowing us to now open up our network to another part of Miami-Dade County, literally starting on March 1st. So that little impact had a big impact. And the second organization, Jeff, going back to hunger relief side, is Food for Life Network. So this helps everything with nutrition support, a food pantry serving about 400 individuals a week in Miami-Dade, and even helping some get housing. But this organization has been around for 40 years, and every little bit to them helps. And so this just fueled, again, helping them provide more meals in the Miami-Dade area. So it was a great initiative. It was great to see the members and executives come together. And Jeff, if you don't mind, I'm going to read, I have a screenshot here on my phone of one of the cards that was written. Do you mind if I read it?
Absolutely, please.
Okay. So I'll keep this confidential, but it says, thank you for being a hero in your community. In a world that feels dark sometimes, it is people like you that provide light and hope. Your work doesn't go unnoticed. Caring is cool, and among others, you are always appreciated. Thanks for all you do.
So there's a couple things, and I want to talk more about those handwritten notes. First off, you almost have to pause and say that was beautifully written by somebody that really knows how to communicate and also really cares. But when you think about handwritten notes, it allows you more time. You know, you type on your computer and auto fills half of your sentence already. But when you send a handwritten note, when you give a handwritten note, they go on a bulletin board. And you think about these first responders, they all have bulletin boards because various announcements. They see that every day. So that note that you wrote, that you, meaning whoever wrote that note or other people, whoever wrote notes, they weren't read by one person. They are probably seen every day. And it's a reminder that the community cares about them. Bonus if they say it's the convenience store community that cares about them, because it's really powerful when somebody acknowledges you in a way that is not that common today.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard this, Jeff, because I know you weren't on site, but the story that I shared to close out the whole Convenience Has Heart campaign and why cards matter. One of the local nonprofits here outside of Washington, D.C. that I was supporting earlier in my career, we met a woman that was basically battling life-threatening kidney disease. And this food organization basically came in from nutrition support, groceries, meals, and really helped right her on the path to a better outcome in health. And really, she credited saving her life. One of the things that she said when we were interviewing her is it wasn't the meals, it wasn't the nutrition support, it was actually a handwritten Valentine's Day card she received from one of their volunteers that stood out. And serendipitously, it was signed by this person named Dallas. And she had shared with tears coming down her face that her late son's name was Dallas. And that was a moment of connection she'll never forget. And so I think you're right. I'm looking at my desk. I have thank you cards scattered on my desk. I think the handwritten card in the day of AI is very impactful. And to know that some of our biggest leaders in our industry took time to write cards like this is really impactful.
And it's also where we can always find, as a people, seems like, oh, let's find fault with this, let's find fault with this, let's disagree with this, let's disagree with that. When we have these moments where we can all come together and agree that helping others is amazing and it's positive for those who are helped and those who help, it creates a virtuous cycle that hopefully gets repeated and pushes away some of the less virtuous cycles that go on in this world. So I think it's incredibly impactful, the work that the foundation is doing now. And with more people joining and more people getting involved, we can do so much more. And convenience stores can continue to stand next to these everyday heroes and say, we got you, and let's help you, and let's help the communities you serve.
Exactly.
So one other thing you had mentioned in the beginning, and I wanted to touch upon this also, is the foundation, the scholarships. And we have a specific new scholarship named after Lisa Del Alba. And Lisa was funny with the podcast. She would always contact us after a podcast and say, I like this, I like that. And she'd stay in touch. And then one week we said, hey, do you want to be on? And she's like, you're kidding, right? This is like being pranked. And I said, no, it's like, let's talk. You're a leader in the industry. We want to hear from you, and people want to hear from you. And she was absolutely thrilled. And she was an enormous influence in our industry and a leader. And it wasn't necessarily that she would create some sort of big prototype business that everybody needed to drive to her stores to see it. What she created was a vibe, both within her stores, within her community, and especially within the convenience store community. Anybody with under 10 stores, I'd be surprised if they weren't on some sort of text chain with Lisa, where they could talk about issues, and she was always available. And she's not with us anymore, but we have a scholarship named after her. So she continues in everything that she stood for, in continuing to give back to our convenience store community. So talk a little bit about the scholarship.
Yeah. I mean, it's very sad that already a year has passed since she passed away. And what was amazing in my early tenure in this role is how quickly the industry, from every corner of the industry, from large to small, to retail to supplier, to even our internal NACS staff, came together and in a no-brainer way said, we got to honor her. And within weeks, we had set up this scholarship, a steering committee, following that, fundraising. And what came out of this that really everybody should know, whether this is something that applies to you or not, is Lisa was very, very big supporter of our executive education program, specifically the Cornell Leadership Program that's endowed by Reynolds. And so what the committee and the foundation came together to do was create scholarship that would cover the entire cost, one applicant every year or one awardee every year for the next 10 years to that Cornell Leadership Program, including the cost of transportation and everything. And we just launched that, but the impact and ripple effect that Lisa had is when we reached out to Cornell's team to mention this, what do you think they did, Jeff?
Double down.
Believe it or not, they were like, consider a match. Why don't you do 2 seats every year for Lisa's honor? So, in the next 10 years, we'll be sending 20 people through the executive education program for Lisa's honor. And that's really impactful. And so we, back in January, applications opened, and I'll just kind of get the housekeeping piece out of the way, but it's open for small retailers that work in small retail brands, and specifically those that have went through the Leadership for Success program, they can apply. And the deadline is probably after this podcast comes out, but you can reach out to us and we would be happy to get you more information for 2027.
So basically, if I could sum up what the foundation does, it plants seeds. It plants seeds in people's minds with the scholarship program, plants seeds in communities where, hey, we can help, we can make you better, we can lift you up. Rising tide raises all ships or boats or whatever you like to phrase it as. But that's what we can do with a foundation. And, basically that's why NACS exists. Bring people together, do things that they can't do separately. Foundation brings together people that can do things together. They can't do them separately, but on a foundation level. So if somebody wants to get more involved, Kevin, whether it's, hey, I know you haven't said anything about 24/7 Day yet with announcements, or I want to find out more about Neighborhood Nourish or response relief or anything else the foundation is doing, what's the best way to reach out to you and find out what they can do? Or the Lisa Del Alba scholarships.
Yeah. So conveniencececares.org is going to be your best approach there. But again, I'm sure in the show notes here, my email will be there. And again, as Jeff found my LinkedIn posts, I'm pretty active on creating some updates and sharing stories there on LinkedIn, so you can connect with me there. But as Jeff said, we have 3 major pillars on ways that you all can get involved individually or company-wide. We have a handful of committees and a board of advisor positions. But really, what I would close with is the foundation here is a convener, an amplifier to better the industry's reputation, make that impact. And I think the last thing I'll share is we've had a lot of support last year, but especially on the supplier side, when they partner with the retailers through the foundation, they're not just seen as a vendor, they're seen as somebody that wants to make that impact in their community and change the industry's reputation.
Well, to circle back to the beginning, I read your LinkedIn post. I'm going to paraphrase it now. Thank you, Kevin, for reminding me why I love what I do. Kevin, did you want to have a last thought?
No, small or big, whether, again, it's donations or getting your hands dirty and collecting food and getting it back in the community. I mean, that's the impact, again that we want to make. There's a lot of programs and strategy we're thinking about, but again, at the end of the day, it's helping the local communities that I think we all can rally around.
Well, thank you again, Kevin, and thank you all for listening to Convenience Matters.
Thank you, Jeff.
Convenience Matters is brought to you by NACS and produced in partnership with Human Factor. For more information, visit convenience.org.